Okay, guys, I just can't stop. I can't. I want to continue. Completed paper. It's all crumbly and broken. Same for these. The prototype paper made from trombo was solid, but the pieces of paper made from other types of wood were varying degrees of bad. Whether it was because the fiber themselves weren't sticky enough or because the fibers were shorter than we thought, we didn't wrap around each other very well, and most of them ended up falling apart in the drying process. Maybe they would have been fine if we put more Tororo into it, I wonder? Just gotta keep experimenting. For our next batch, we put in a lot of Tororo and went for thicker paper so it wouldn't break apart so easy. How about this? We gotta wait for it to dry, but here's hoping. The thick paper with extra Tororo was so hard that it broke apart when we tried peeling it off the board. We could only watch stunned as the paper crumbled before our eyes. That's no good. It broke rather than ripped, so we couldn't really be called paper in the first place. Maybe the ratio of fibers in Tororo and water was off, or maybe the wood itself wasn't good for making paper. It was hard to tell. I read in a book that you can make something like paper out of basically any plant, but it was impossible to say how much my earth knowledge applied here. Our failures here just made me want to shout, but why? It's really too bad we can't just grow trombas ourselves. Don't even think about it. Maybe it would work if we had tromba seeds, I thought. It wouldn't be hard to grow tromba if we could find the kind of red fruit I picked up. But Liz just shook his head. Don't look for those. You want to destroy the forest? If we have these seeds, we could just cut them down once they start growing like before. Trombas were problematic since we didn't know when or where they would appear, but if we could find a seed and then have a bunch of people standing at the ready, it wouldn't be too hard to handle. However, Lutz just rubbed his temples and shut me down harder. Nobody knows when or where trombas grow. They're too dangerous. Okay, I couldn't deny the possibility that a tromba had just coincidentally started growing near where I had thrown the fruit. Lutz was so mad that I gave up on the mysterious multiplying tree. Hurry up and figure out how things work here. I'm trying my best, you know. Mine barely had any meaningful memories due to being stuck at home since birth, whereas I had plenty of solid memories from my Arano Motosu days. I couldn't help but rely on them more than mine, but lately, after I told him that I had memories of a past life as well, Lutz had started correcting me when he noticed me not understanding something about this world. Basically, trombas are dangerous. They suck the energy out of the ground around them when they sprout, and for a while, nothing will grow when they've been. Growing them ourselves won't ever work. What? They're that dangerous? It didn't look like that happened when that one we saw. That's why I said it was weird. Weren't you listening? I just didn't know what trombas were. You need to know what's normal to know what's weird. Trombas made the best paper, but they apparently only sprouted in the autumn and were extremely dangerous, so cultivation was impossible. Wishing for the impossible was pointless. Only thinking about making do with what you did have would bear fruit, so our trial and error experimentation would need to continue. In order to make mass production of paper possible from trees readily available in the forest, we experimented with ratios with hitting the fibers harder, with using shram bugs to make Tororo instead of edible fruit, and so on, improving the paper bit by bit. Looks like Volren wood's the best for this. I think paper made from Volren wood, with a bit of extra Tororo made from shram bugs, is good enough to be sold as a product. After experimenting with the 3 types of softwood the lumberyard told us about, we learned that Volren trees produced wood which made the thinnest, best paper. Volren wood had fibers somewhat harder than the others 2 softwoods, making it harder to beat, but the more we hit it, the stickier the fibers got. Once we realized that, we can make relatively good paper by hitting the fibers a lot. We then experimented with ratios and materials when making the pulpy water and found which should be the best. I wrote the recipe on my slate and slapped my hands together, knocking off the dust. I think we're good. Yep, shouldn't be any problems mass-producing this paper. Lutz's expression was bright with joy over having found a good recipe for paper making. He stroked the completed paper several times, but we'll have to wait until spring for that. It's hard to get wood right now, and the bark will harden as winter comes, not to mention the river getting colder. We will be able to make much better paper by waiting for spring to come, whereupon the forest will be filled with soft wood and branches. Plus, to be honest, entering the river to dunk the bark was already getting painful. For Litz's sake, I wanted to put it off until the weather warmed up. Okay, let's go ahead and bring the paper we finished to Bendo. Over the winter, I'll be going to the gate to help Otto. Yeah, let's finish this up before we get prepared for winter. I'll go to the gate tomorrow and ask Otto how to write a thank you letter. Because, we finally made paper. I want to write a letter on it. Let's nodded at my suggestion while stacking up the heap of today's failures. I'll leave that to you, so you want me to bring these failures home with you, right? Uh-huh, we're bringing the good paper for Benno, but I'm going to make a book out of the messed up paper that we ripped by accident and stuff. I had already confirmed with Mark that it wouldn't be a problem for us to keep our large number of failures. With them, I would be able to start making my first real book. The next day, I went to the gate for the first time in a long time, as the winter accounting season involved a lot of budget-related paperwork. Otto greeted me with a shining smile on his face. Hey, you mine, I've been waiting for you. Otto's smile broadened as he patted the stack of papers next to him and gestured me over. I had apparently arrived while he was in the middle of calculating and writing down the total price of purchasing a certain number of a particular type of goods, as written down on wooden cards. As I helped him work through the paperwork, I asked him about how to write a thank you letter. Mr. Otto, I would like you to teach me how to write a letter of thanks. A letter of thanks? What, like nobles send each other? I almost said that it didn't have to be the kind nobles used but stopped. It was possible that in this world only nobles ever sent letters. Because paper's hard to get, girl. What are you, crazy? There are letters of introduction, so I thought there might be letters of thanks to express gratitude for those introductions. Was I wrong? I know that nobles send letters of thanks to each other, but I don't know any merchants who will bother with them. It'd be waste of used paper on something that's not a contract. That made sense. Paper was very expensive and not something you could use frivolously. How should I express my thanks then? For merchants, it's normal for you to take something you're selling that the person wants and give it to them for free. Whether a servant delivers the gift or the merchant himself, the idea is you give them a concrete gift, not a letter. I had assumed that a culture with letters of introduction would have letters of thanks too, and planned to write one on the very paper I had made with Benno's help. But in reality, it was normal to give gifts as thanks and not letters. I didn't expect that. Mr. Otto, what do you think I should give Mr. Benno? I can't think of anything we have that he would be happy to have. The paper? The paper! Hello! I couldn't imagine single one of my possessions having something that Benno would want. He felt like the kind of person who owned everything. Otto shrugged and gave me some advice. Won't that paper you two made be enough? That's the only product you two have, and if it's worth something, then Benno will be getting a return on his investment. Seems fine to me. If you really want to throw in something extra, how about information on some new kind of product to sell, or something like that? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Otto. My options are raising the value of paper, or giving him information on a new product. I think I can make this work. The next day, I suggested to Lutz that we make special paper to represent our gratitude. Otto told me that merchants don't send letters of thanks, they give gifts in the form of products that person will want. So I think we should use tromba wood to make some special paper for him. Why not? We still have some white tromba bark, right? Yeah, gray paper would be a good gift for him. Wait, what have you got there? Let's look down at the red plants in my hands. I found these growing by the well yesterday and squashed them until they were flat and dry like pressed flowers. What do you want Allegros for? Naturally, I'm going to use them to make the paper special. Allegros was the name of a plant that looked like a red clover. My idea was to put the Allegros in the drying paper, just like one would put flowers in the pulpy. Water while making washi. I wanted to make a message card with Allegros lined up along the side first, and then I wanted to make another sheet of paper with the leaves removed from the stems arranged into heart shapes like the middle like you would see in chiogami, a kind of decorative Japanese paper. Once we finished the message card, Liz and I wrote, "We finished this paper thanks to your support, Mr. Benno. Thank you very much," on it, and signed our names. This paper looks crazy pretty. The Allegros mixed in made it look like pictures drawn on the paper, doesn't it? So pretty. Yeah, what about this piece of paper? I'm gonna make origami out of it. Gonna make what? After cutting the chiogami-esque paper into a square with a knife, I folded it into a wishing crane. I remember from my Irano days that people in foreign countries liked shurikens the most, but the people of this world probably wouldn't recognize them, and something elaborate like a massive flower would be a waste of paper. A crane, on the other hand, would look elegant and could easily be made from a single sheet of paper. I made the back part spread out like a peacock's tail so it looked even better than a normal crane. So, what do you think? Looks pretty cute if you ask me. Holy crap, how did you turn paper into this? I have no idea what you just did. Lutz prodded the crane timidly with his fingers. His reverence made me realize something. Wait. How much is this origami crane worth from a materials perspective? Actually, Lutz, isn't a paper decoration like super extravagant here? Well, it's a gift for Benno. It'd be fine. I had thought that origami would be a nice combination of cheap to make and unusual, but thinking about the price of paper, I had probably just done something very wasteful. Maybe I should tell Benno that he could still spread the paper out and still use it just with some creases. Otto also mentioned that we could give him information on something that would make a good new product. That's your thing, mine. Lutz casually threw the ball in my court. I had a few products in mind, but I wanted to hear Lutz's thoughts on whether they would sell or not. Benno seemed interested in my hair stick when we first met him, so I was thinking maybe I could tell him more about it, but it isn't just a wooden stick. I pointed at my head and Lutz gave a big nod. Yeah, it's just a stick. Do you think it'd sell? They're easy to make at home, so I don't know if anyone would bother buying one. I had expected that, unusual or not, it wouldn't sell, and Lutz had the same thought. If you want to sell your hair stick, well, what about that other kind, the one you made Tuli for her baptism? Lutz, you're a genius. Everyone loved that hair ornament. I might want to make them for this year's winter handiwork. With that, I had gifts to give to Benno. All we had left was setting up a meeting when he had the time. Hey, Lutz, could you ask Mark for Benno's schedule when you go to give him the key? Yeah, sure. On the day Mark mentioned to us, Lutz and I went to his store with the paper we had made together. As complete products, we had the trauma paper and the Bookworm paper, with 3 versions of each with varying degrees of thickness, which made a total of 6 kinds of paper. On top of that, we had the Allegra's message card and the origami crane. And finally, I had Tuli's hairpin in my tote bag to use as a starting point for potential business plans. Good morning, Mr. Benno. We finished the paper prototypes and brought them for you to see. They ended up really good thanks to your investment and help. I heard that from Otto, but really, you already finished? Yes, have a look. I took the paper out of my tote bag and placed it on Benno's desk. After looking at the stack of white eyes for a second, he reached out and picked up a sheet. Let's see here. After holding it up to the light and getting a feel for the texture, he took out ink. He then cut off a strip near the top and ran his pen across it. You can write on it. It's easier to write on than parchment since it's so smooth, too. The ink runs a little, but that's not a critical problem. Do we pass? Will you take on Lutz as your apprentice? Benno, stroking his chin, grinned and reached for the next sheet of paper. Yeah, that was the deal. How much of this stuff can you make? These are just small prototypes, so we'll need bigger tools if we're going to shift into mass production. I think this paper is just a little too tiny to be useful. How big is the paper you use the most? The letters of introduction I saw at the gate varied so much in size that I had no frame of reference for making my own paper. The cicada used to make normal washi were so massive that they would take more strength than I or Lutz had, which would defeat the purpose. Lutz and I needed to make the paper ourselves, and I wanted to, if possible, mass-produce paper of the most commonly used size. This is where you need to figure out how to make the printing press, girl. You're going to need that. The paper I use for letters of introduction and contracts are generally this size. There's no set standard. Benno took a piece of parchment from his shelf that was somewhere between an A4 and B4 size sheet of paper. Making one would require a cicada of significant size. Okay, then we'll need a new screen and frame about that size, but we won't start actually making the paper until spring. It's getting too cold for us to gather the wood we need and such. Just get your tools ready for spring. Ask Mark for help. This paper will make a lot of money, no doubt about it. Benno accepted our paper and recognized its value. Lutz and I looked at each other and smiled, happy that our labor had finally borne fruit. This paper is especially high quality, said Benno, touching the paper made from tromba wood. He could tell at a glance that it was higher quality. It was both whiter and smoother. That paper was made from tromba wood. Did you say tromba? Benno jerked his head up, looking stunned. Lutz and I exchanged glances. Indeed, trombas were apparently a very well-known plant, famous for being dangerous. I took a step back and left the explanation to Lutz so I wouldn't say anything weird. Picking up on my attention, Lutz stepped forward and spoke. Mine found a growing tromba when we were gathering in the forest by chance, and we got this wood from chopping it down with the others. It was really hard to get, and who knows where trombas will pop up, so I don't think we'll be able to make it very often. Yeah, figures. But tromba wood, huh? It was plain as day that Benno was desperately thinking of a way to mass-produce tromba paper. He had the expression of a calculating merchant, but trombas were rare enough that he probably didn't have much hope of coming up with something. In all our experiments, tromba wood ended up being the best quality paper, but without materials to make it, we can't sell it. This other paper is made out of Overlord wood. That's much easier to get, so this paper is more suitable to being sold as a product. Makes sense. Overlord wood's definitely good for mass production. Benno nodded to himself. It looked like he had come to a conclusion on all this paper business, so I took out my gifts. And here, this is a letter of thanks we made for you, Mr. Otto. Told us that you would appreciate us increasing the value of paper, so we made a special kind of decorative paper. A letter of thanks, huh? I've sent one to an archduke before, but I've never gotten one myself. It feels like I just went up way in society. Benno, grinning and looking pleased, opened up the message card. He then froze, staring at it with slightly widened eyes. We put Allegra's into the paper while making it. How do you like it? What? Allegris is a kind of common weed, isn't it? But they look beautiful like this. Huh. I'm thinking this paper would be good for nobles' wives and daughters. The fact Benno immediately thought of market demographic while upon seeing a new product just showed how reliable of a merchant he was. That he expected the paper to interest nobles was a tacit confirmation that we had indeed raised the value of the paper. And this is like a gift for investing in us and helping us come this far. It's a decoration made from paper. This one is a wishing crane. Oh, this is paper? I flattened the crane on his desk, and Benno picked it up, eyes sparkling. He looked at it from various angles, but really it was just decoration and nothing more. I realized I'd done something very wasteful after making it. It's just a decoration, but if you spread it out, you can still use the paper. Creased paper, but still. Well, what's wrong with decoration? It'll be a good marketing prop for the paper we're selling here. As he put the crane on one of his own shelves, Benno murmured that he would put them on top of the paper shelves should the operation go that far. It seemed that his shelf would be the crane's home for some time. To be honest, I hadn't expected him to like the crane that much. I was truly glad I had made it up for him as a gift. I'll be honest, I didn't think that you could make paper out of wood. The quality is a lot better than anything I expected too. This will make for a fine product. Good work. I'm looking forward to mass production starting in spring. Benno's high praise made Lutz and I so happy that we clasped hands and jumped for joy. I looked back to how hard it had been to make all this happen and actually teared up a little. We didn't mind. It's all because you work so hard, Lutz. Benno watched us celebrate with a wry smile and stacked the paper back onto his desk. I'll buy all this paper. You'll be paid on your way out. Just talk to Mark. Really? Speaking of which, he had mentioned that we would be paid what's left after the fees for materials and handling. Wow, it's my first pocket change. I started to think about how it would be a good idea to use our remaining white bark to make paper to sell when suddenly it hit me. I had brought Thule's hairpin to ask Benno about whether or not it would be a worthwhile product. I think it would be. Also, there's something I want to discuss with you. Do you think this would sell? I took the hairpin out and placed it on Benno's desk. It was a short pin with a bouquet of small blue and yellow flowers attached to it. For some reason, Benno jerked after seeing it and tensed up a little. Girl, what is this? A hairpin. It bundles up your hair and looks pretty too. Like this. I took Thule's hairpin and stuck it in next to my hair stick. I made this for my older sister's baptism, so I can't sell this one in particular, but I think I might want to make this kind of hair ornament for my winter handiwork. Do you think they'll sell? Benno, glaring at the hairpin with sharp eyes, spoke in a low voice. They will. Okay, I'll make them then. Which means, well, can I ask you to also fund me making these so I can sell them to you? Benno let out a sigh and looked at me. I was probably just imagining that he looked really tired. What in the world do you need? String. It doesn't have to be high quality string, but I would like string of as many different colors as possible. Making all the hairpins the same color would be boring, and I'm sure everyone would want a hairpin that matches their hair color and such. The more designs and colors, the better. Just string. What else? I would like a little wood, but since I'm already gathering wood for firewood, that's not a problem. You're making these on your own, girl? Benno gave me a hard glare, which reminded me that our operation here revolved around me thinking and Lutz making. It would probably be smart to have Lutz help in some way. The plan is for me to make the ornament part and Lutz to make the wood pin part. We'll be working together, of course. Right, Lutz? Yeah, I'll make the wood parts. Lutz squeezed my hand and hurriedly nodded. Benno gave me a firm look that implied he wanted to say something, but I kept my cool with a fake smile. All right, sure. Now that we have that settled, do you two have the time and strength to go somewhere right now? Uh-huh. Perfect. We're going to the Merchant's Guild. The Merchant's Guild? Oh no, another new phrase. What kind of place is this guild gonna be? If you know this is a fantasy world, then you know what a Merchant's Guild is, girl. Oh, this is where we're gonna meet, shoot, whatever her name is, and then they're gonna find out about the devouring. Oh no. The Merchant's Guild. We headed to the Merchant's Guild with Benno carrying me. At first I had been walking on my own, but Benno got so mad at my walking speed that he yelled, "You're slow, this is a waste of time," and picked me right up. Along the way he lectured me about the importance of time, giving me no room to protest. By the way, Mr. Benno, what is the Merchant's Guild exactly? It was very possible that the Merchant's Guild was different from the ones I was familiar with, so I decided to ask for details. What, you don't know? I've never been. Do you know about it, Lutz? It's just a place for people who buy and sell stuff, yeah? I had thrown the ball into Lutz's court in case every kid in the city knew about the guild, but his reply wasn't anything I couldn't surmise myself from the name alone. Benno, sighing, gave us an explanation. Well, you're not wrong. The guild's main job is to give permits to those wanting to open stores in the cities, and to punish stores violating the law. You can't open a store without the Merchant's Guild permission, not even a stand at the market. On top of that, everyone in the business needs to register with the guild. Anyone doing business unregistered gets punished severely. In other words, it was like a government office dealing with trade. Since they gave permission to open stores and registered merchant apprentices, that probably wasn't too far from the truth. The guild seems like an organization with a lot of political power. That's right, it's powerful and greedy. You gotta pay to register an apprentice, you gotta pay more if you want to start a new business, and basically anything you do there will have some kind of fee attached. Perhaps it was a shared trait among all worlds that money was required for doing anything. This was a cruel world for poor people. Either way, a kid can become a merchant apprentice after his baptism gets registered there. Everyone working in a store is connected to the buying and selling of products. You two will only be temporarily registered until your baptism. But this is the only way I can sell the paper, hairpins, any products you can bring me. Does that mean we have to be registered with the guild for you to buy our paper? Correct. I see. Benno was rushing our registration so that he could buy our prototypes. I nodded to myself, but Benno furrowed his brows. I'm hoping this goes smoothly, but we're dealing with the insufferable old geezer here. He's not going to let this happen without butting in. Well, that's not something I expected to hear. I thought Benno was a higher up in the Merchant's Guild, but I guess not. Well, he's not the most high up. Maybe there's a faction war going on? You see, my store is expanding at a pretty fast rate. The guildmaster wants a piece of the pie and is always trying to snatch as much of my profit as he can. Understand? Keep quiet and don't say anything unnecessary. Okay, Liz and I both replied together. Neither of us had any intention of getting in between two skilled merchants battling it out. It'd be like jumping into a pair of angry lions. Or a pit of angry lions. Right, about that hairpin you brought mine. This one? I opened my tote bag to show the hair ornament. Benno nodded and then looked at me with his dark red shark eyes. How many days does it take to make one of those? If I have all the materials ready and Liz makes the wood pin part for me and I'm not feeling sick, I can finish the fire part in about a single day, if I work really hard. It would also depend on the number of small flowers, but still, it would generally take me a day's work, at any speed. My mom, skilled at sewing as she was, could probably finish one within the span of 2 bells. What about you, Lutz? Shaving the wood and stuff should probably just take a single bell. Alright, good, said Benno, his tone pleased but his eyes still gleaming sharply. Why is that good? You'll see. With the grin of a carnivore that just found its next target, Benno jutted his chin forward. There, I saw the Merchant's Guild building. The Merchant's Guild was a large building constructed in the corner of the central plaza. That alone signified that it was a wealthy organization, but on top of that, every floor of the building was part of the guild with no rooms being rented out to anyone. The front door had an armed guard standing in front of it. After giving Lutz and me a suspicious look, he turned to Benno. What brings you here today? Getting these two a temporary registration. The guard opened the door, we went inside, and I was stunned to see that it immediately led to a staircase. The stairs were somewhat wide, but I couldn't see any path to the first floor. Mr. Benno, what kind of first floor does this building have? Right, the first floor here is used for parking carriages and carts. It'd get in the way of public business if carriages were to line the main street. You'd see them if you went out around back. We got to the second floor and reached a wide hallway. A large number of people were traversing through it, going every which way. It was such a bustling crowd that I actually felt surprised. Like, wow, this really was a big city with a lot of people. We've got no business here. We're taking the inner staircase to the 3rd floor. The path to the inner staircase was safe for me since Benno was carrying me, but I saw Lutz getting crushed by the crowd of people as he followed behind us. Are you okay, Lutz? Yeah, but man, it's like a festival here. This is where people apply for stands at the market, and where traveling merchants come to get permission to do business. It gets busy like this when the market's coming up. Once it ends, it'll be quiet for a bit. Neat. The inner staircase was blocked by a metal fence with another guard standing in front of it. Registration card, please. All 3 of us are going up. Understood. Benno took out a metal card and handed it over to the guard, who then held it out toward the gate. Immediately the gate shone with a white light and then melted into thin air until it was gone. What was that? It's a magic tool, Lutz. Don't let go of my hand, it'll knock you back. Right. Benno held me up with one arm while taking Lutz's hand with the other before walking up the staircase. I thought that only nobles could use magic. The executives of organizations like these generally have connections within the nobility. More than a few nobles don't hesitate to give out magic tools if they determine that it'll be a net positive for them. I've never seen a gate like that before. I thought the same thing when I signed the magic contract, but apparently this was much more of a fantasy world than I expected. Once we finished climbing the stairs, Benno let go of Lutz's hand and set me on the floor. White walls stretched into the distance, and I could see what looked like a receptionist counter near the other end. As the third floor was for those who already owned stores in the city, there were fewer people, and it was a lot more quieter than the second floor, which had to deal with anyone wanting to open a stand in the market. Although the second floor had been dusty and dirty with wood flooring, the third floor had carpet and was kept clean. It had the atmosphere of a place where a decent sum of money was being dedicated to its maintenance and furnishing. A single glance would remind you that we lived in a stratified, status-based society. There are conference rooms behind these walls. Neither of you will be seeing the inside of one, explained Benno, pointing at the white walls while walking to the counter. Lutz and I held hands and followed behind him. This floor's high-class atmosphere was unlike anything I dealt with in my normal life, and it was making me nervous. We passed by the conference rooms and reached the counter stretching from wall to wall at the end. There were children working behind it, probably apprentices, reading wood cards and using calculators to do math. Lutz, you'll really want to learn math and letters over the winter. Yeah. There was a sofa by the counter to relax on, though the area it was in felt more like a reception office than a waiting room. Wait, is that a bookshelf? I turned around and saw a rack of wooden cards and pieces of parchment lining its shelves. My enthusiasm immediately shot through the roof. Benno shot me a somewhat confused look. More or less, it's a bookshelf of rules for opening stores, simple maps of the region, and scrolls detailing the lineages of nobles. You're interested in them? Yes, very, very interested. I wanted to charge right at the bookshelf, but Lutz squeezed my hand tight and wouldn't let me go. Benno grinned at the sight of me losing my cool. You can look at them after we state our business at the counter. The waiting time's going to be long, no doubt about it. Really? Yay! Calm down, Mike. You're getting too excited. Uh-oh. Could I be calm after discovering what could be technically classified as simplified books? Simplified books that were within my power to read? No, I could not. I valued Lutz's advice, but this heart-racing excitement wouldn't just vanish into thin air. Or so I thought, until Lutz gave a flat warning that forced me to calm down. If you get too excited, you'll pass out before you get to read anything. No, anything but that. Benno, who had been watching our exchange with amusement, sensed that a conclusion had been reached and said, "Follow me." We walked up to the counter. The receptionist gave a fake business smile upon seeing Benno. "Hello, Mr. Benno. What brings you here today?" "I want a temporary registration for these two, mine and Lutz." "Temporary registrations? But they are not your children, I imagine?" "They're not. But I need them registered. Let's get this done." Apparently, temporary registrations were originally devised as a loophole to allow merchants to let their children work in their store before being baptized, when normally unbaptized kids are not legally allowed to work or be registered with the guild. Under normal circumstances, no merchant would ever want to involve a non-blood related child in their business to the extent of getting a temporary registration for them. So Benno was doing something quite out of the ordinary. The receptionist narrowed her eyes suspiciously, but asked Lutz and I some questions while writing something behind the counter. The questions were what you would expect from any bureaucratic institution: our names, our father's names and where they work, our home addresses, our ages, and so on. "You're getting temporary registrations for the son of a carpenter and the daughter of a soldier?" With the questions over, the receptionist looked over Lutz and me with even more suspicion than before. She was very clearly searching for the reason for why he would want to get temporary registrations for us. It wasn't a very pleasant experience. "Just finish the registration. You're wasting our time here." "Yes, certainly. Please wait for a moment." She pointed at the waiting space. I looked at Benno, holding back the urge to bolt to the bookshelf. "Mr. Benno, can I look at the bookshelf while we wait?" "Sure. I'll answer any questions you got. Just bring the scroll over to me. Let's don't let mine out of your sight." "Got it." I walked to the bookshelf with Lutz, who was refusing to let go of my hand. I spread out the parchment and picked up the wooden cards to see what they were. They all had practical usage in mind, first and foremost. There were maps, diagrams, records of noble lineages, and what looked like old newspapers giving information about the city and surrounding area. Wow, this is a map! It was a fairly rough map, but it was the first one I've ever seen in this world. I hugged it close to me, not even knowing where we were on it, and walked to the sofa where Benno was sitting. Once there, I enthusiastically sat on it like I would a normal sofa, expecting a soft spring cushion, but in reality it was just a piece of cloth spread across a wooden board. The landing hurt my foot. Ow! That's what you get for sitting so hard, idiot. I know you're excited, but try not to embarrass yourself. It's not my fault. They shouldn't trick me with fake sofas like this. I wouldn't have sat like that if it was obviously a wooden bench. I let out a little humph and made excuses in my head after Benno looked at me with exasperation, then spread out the map on the cloth-covered wooden board we were sitting upon. "Mr. Benno, which city are we in?" "This one. Ehrenfest. The family name of the area's lord is used as the name of the city." I heard the name of my city for the first time. At the same time, I learned the name of its lord. You didn't have to know the name of a city if you never left it, and everyone just referred to the lord by his title. I looked at the map and saw that there were farming villages and forests to the south of Ehrenfest. Then further down there was a small city. To the west was a large river and a city belonging to the neighboring region. The lord of our region and the lord of that region were apparently friendly, which meant there was a lot of trade between them. The north of the map had a big blank space, since that was where the lord lived in a city of nobles. To the east was a large paved road. Most travelers came from that direction. You two might leave the city for business reasons, but all in all, it's not likely that you'll ever leave what's on this map. After I had Benno teach me the names of several neighboring cities, I put the map back and went back to digging through the bookshelf. The lowest shelf had a book for teaching apprentices numbers and letters. I skimmed through it, thinking it might be good help for studying with Lutz. There were letters I knew, and lots of words related to business. I wanted to memorize them. Mr. Benno, can I have a stone slate for studying with Lutz? Sure, I'll subtract the cost from what I'm paying you today. Study hard. Also, can I ask how literate the average child of a merchant is? After our baptism, we will be working with the children of merchants as apprentices. I wanted to at least get as good as them before that happened. They can read and write on a basic level. Same for math. They mostly know what products their store sells. Math-wise, they can calculate transactions that deal with just coppers and silvers. Oh no, I don't know how the currency works here. I know there's small and large copper coins and small silver coins, but that's it. I don't need the exchange rate or market value or anything. Because, my family only uses copper coins. I've barely ever seen any currency other than those copper coins. Plus, I just deal with numbers at the gate. I've never seen Otto actually using money. In my eyes, the thing you two lack the most is knowing how to deal with customers. The other kids have seen their parents working every single day. They've got customer service in their bones. That was impossible for us to compete with. In the past, I had always been the receiver of services, never the giver. Lutz likewise had never been given the opportunity to develop a merchant's instincts. Oh no, what should we do? Before I could lose myself in thought on the subject, the receptionist called for us from behind the counter. Mr. Benno, the guildmaster would like to see you. I knew that geezer would get in my way, murmured Benno before standing up, just quietly enough for us to hear. The glint in his eyes and the clenched fist by his sides told me that he was preparing for a fight. Let's go, you two. We walked to the counter, and to the leftmost part of it folded down so we could go inside. Behind the counter was another staircase. We climbed it, and the door at the top opened by itself. Behind it was a relatively small but comfortable-looking room. A fluffy carpet was spread in front of it, a brightly burning fireplace, and on top of the carpet was a business desk. Behind the desk sat a kind-looking older man with somewhat broad shoulders that looked about in his 50s. I had expected the guildmaster would be an old grandpa, but this man looked like he was just slightly past his prime. The guildmaster gave a warm smile and stood up. Now then, Benno, I will get right to the point. Why do you want to temporarily register these children who are not even of your blood? This is quite different from a merchant registering their child so they can look after their stand at the market, as you know. In other words, the guildmaster was saying that he knew Lutz and I had in our grasp a product valuable enough for Benno to want to register us now, without waiting for our baptism. He had said all that with a warm smile still on his face. I can't allow this registration unless you make your intentions clear. There is no precedent in recorded Ehrenfest history for a child unrelated to a merchant being temporarily registered. The guildmaster stared at Lutzaby with a smile that gave no hints as to his thoughts. My first impression of him had been that he was a kind man, but that was far from the truth. He was threatening us. If we didn't answer his questions, he wouldn't approve our registration. The guildmaster had complete control of the situation, and out of nervousness I looked at Benno. He was looking at the guildmaster with a malicious smile that made it clear he was utterly confident that he would succeed. In short, you want to know what these children brought me. Yes, depending on what it is, I might find it better for another location to sell it. Your store is beginning to overstep its bounds. Again, in other words, we're worth something, and he wants the profit for himself. He's not even hiding his intentions here. They want to sell it in my store, and so I'm going to. Right, mine? Let's... Benno threatened us with his eyes not to say anything. Lutz and I just nodded hard, pleased by that. Benno's smile widened, and he looked down at me. Mine, showed the guildmaster the prototype of those hairpins you want to start selling. Okay. It seemed that Benno intended to hide the fact that he was dipping his toes in the paper industry. I didn't know why he was hiding that, but he had made it clear I shouldn't say anything unnecessary. Well, you guys do have a magic contract with that if you break it, you threaten your lives with it, but yeah. I stuck a hand in my tote bag while saying as little as possible, then took out the hairpin and held it out so the guildmaster could see. And for some reason, the second I did that, the guildmaster paled and his eyes widened. Ooh. I think that he might have seen this. Or had heard about it. That's 34. Okay, for a second I thought that was 54. The Guildmaster and the hair ornament. That's... Remember the Guildmaster frozen in place. The only time Thule had worn this hairpin was during her baptism. What had happened then? The sight of the Guildmaster's unfaltering smile vanishing in a split second made me so nervous that I turned to Benno for help. Judging by the carnivorous expression on Benno's face, he was far from worried about the Guildmaster freezing up. For a second, it looked like he was about to lick his lips hungrily, but then he was back to his normal, dark merchant smile. Is this perhaps the pin you were looking for, Guildmaster? You're gonna sell this? The Guildmaster's eyes shot open in surprise, and he looked between Benno and me. His desperate expression, bereft of a smile, was so scary I gasped at the sight of it. That's no fair. Why do you get to hide behind Benno? Yeah, because he's not involved in this. You're the one that made the hairpin. I tried escaping behind Benno too, but he grabbed my shoulders and pushed me forward. Yep, the plan is for them to make more over the winter. Winter handiwork, then. In that case, I would like to buy the hairpin immediately. The Guildmaster leaned forward to take Thule's hairpiece from me. The gleam in his eyes made it clear that he would never give it back if he got his hands on it, so I hastily put it back in my bag. That won't work. I made this for my sister Thule. I can't sell it. I'll give you this much. He sharply held up 3 fingers. I was probably indicating some price, but I had no idea what. I timidly looked at Benno, who was grinning hard. Well, if you make it worth our while, we'll make getting you a hairpiece our top priority. What do you think, mine? I agree with Benno. I couldn't think of anything else to say. I would only follow Benno's lead with a forced smile. If we start making it now, we'll easily have enough time to make one before your granddaughter's winter baptism. Right, mine? Ah, I get it now. His granddaughter saw Thule's hairpin during the summer baptism and wanted one herself. Benno's hint finally helped me realize what was going on. As the Guildmaster of the Merchants Guild, this man normally had more information than anyone else regarding products in the market. But he couldn't find the hairpin. My family had made this hairpin for Thule without selling it, and no store in the city was selling anything similar. He had probably grown increasingly worried as the winter baptism ceremony approached. There is only 1 month left. Is there enough time to make a new one? Oh, yes. There's probably time to make 30 of those things. Making the tiny flowers took a surprising amount of time and thread. My mom had said that she was fine making them in the winter when we were locked inside without much to do. But any other season would be too busy for her. That said, I had no doubt whatsoever that her attitude would change if making the flowers was work that paid well. It would take some time to buy the thread and ask his granddaughter what kind of hairpin she wanted, but even so, there was plenty of time until the winter baptism ceremony. Yes, we can't sell this one, but there won't be any problem with us making a new one. Isn't that right, Lutz? Yeah, no problem. Lutz and I both nodded in agreement. Benno, who had been nodding with a grin on his face, followed us up. That said, neither of them are registered yet. Too bad they can't sell you the hairpin like this. Very well. I will order the hairpin after temporarily registering them. The Guildmaster's defeat was settled in moments. Pleased that he had succeeded in registering us without undue complaints or leaking information about the paper, Benno started to leave the room. Hold on. The kids can wait here until their guild cards are ready. I'll order the hairpin right after. Benno clicked his tongue under his breath and turned around with a smile. They're too young to be left on their own. I'll stay here with them. That won't be necessary. They seem quite well behaved. They'll be fine without you. Right? The Guildmaster's smile looked gentle, but it was clear he was planning something. I'd probably be wrapped up in some plot of his if I was on my own, so I reflexively grabbed Benno's hand. This is a new place to me, so I want to stay with Benno. You heard the girl. Benno, wearing a victorious smile, sat on the hard sofa-like chair in the Guildmaster's room. He picked me up and sat me on his lap and whispered, "Good job," and patted my head. He was very, very pleased. Benno's going to be like a second dad to her, essentially. That's what I think is going to happen. He's going to be like a second father figure to her. Afterward, I moved to sit next to Benno, and Lutz sat next to me. The Guildmaster sat in front of us and began discussing business. I'll have 1 hairpin then. Please finish it before the winter baptism ceremony. What color flowers do you want? Maybe your granddaughter's favorite colors, or colors that'll match her hair, or... That is outside my area of expertise. Just make it like that one, said the Guildmaster, pointing at my tote bag. But even if it was outside of his area of expertise, it was important information. Benno was probably going to be overcharging the Guildmaster, so I at least wanted to make a hairpin that would make his daughter happy. The smile of a happy granddaughter would be a priceless for a grandpa who worked hard to find a certain present for her after all. If possible, could I meet your granddaughter and ask her what she would like? I think she would be happier that way. I want to keep it a secret and surprise her. Oh no, it's happening. He's gonna ruin the gift by forcing it to be a surprise. The only time a surprise gift will make someone happy is if you knew their taste perfectly and gave it to them at the exact proper timing. Pulling that off would be way too hard for a grandpa who didn't even know his granddaughter's favorite color. But the hairpin will need to match her clothes and hair color too. And she might end up really frustrated if you give her a hairpin after she's already prepared another one. The winter baptism ceremony was close enough that she probably already prepared an outfit for it. It wouldn't be surprising if she and her mother had already bought a hairpin. We're going to be making one from scratch, so I think she'll cherish the gift more if it suits her taste, rather than one she doesn't look very good in. Don't you think a happy smile would be more wonderful than a look of surprise? I see. The Guildmaster stroked his chin and looked up, thinking about something. Mine, was it? Would you be interested in coming to my store? Not a chance, said Benno, immediately rejecting him instantly before I could react at all. My store is larger than Benno's, as has a more storied history. No conditions either. As you have not been baptized yet, you are not an official apprentice and can easily switch to my store. No, we cannot! No, we cannot! That magic contract is keeping that. What do you think? It was an attractive offer, but he had no intention of abandoning Benno after he helped us get so far. Not to mention, the Guildmaster was kind of scary. I owe Benno more than I can ever repay him. In that case, I will repay him for you. What? I had intended for that to be a firm rejection, but he was still going. Benno's mood plummeted as I wavered beneath the Guildmaster's sheer force of will. His brows furrowed until his forehead was creased, and he glared at me while thumping his fingers against his temple. Mine, answered the Guildmaster. Say you decline. I decline. That's unfortunate, but I will give up for now. You won't be able to give an honest answer with an intimidating guard by your side. What do you mean for now? And I am being honest here. Are you free to speak with my granddaughter, Frida, tomorrow? The sooner the better, I imagine. Can I go with Benno? Today's meeting had firmly taught me the lesson that I should not meet the Guildmaster alone under any circumstances. It was dangerous without someone who could deal with his force of will and authority. However, the Guildmaster shook his head. Unfortunately, Benno and I both have a meeting tomorrow, but in either case, would you really want an adult around when meeting with a girl your age? Well, okay, if it's just us kids. I had become so exhausted from my battle with the Guildmaster that I reflexively nodded at the idea of it being a meeting between girls of the same age. The second I did, Benno clicked his tongue. What did I do wrong? I mean, if Benno and the Guildmaster are going to be meeting together, it doesn't matter. The furrows in Benno's brows deepened, and the Guildmaster's smile returned, making it clear that I had made a careless mistake. Just as kids meant that Mark couldn't come along with us. My head started spinning desperately for a solution. I looked around and then realized something. Lutz is making the hairpin of me, so I think he should come with me. He's a kid too, so... Going in there alone was too scary. My suggestion to bring Lutz along made Benno's expression loosen up a little. In contrast, the Guildmaster raised his right eyebrow with amusement. Very well, how does meeting at the plaza tomorrow at third bell sound? I'll send Frida to get you. Okay. An employee walked in with our temporary membership cards, as if he had been waiting out for our conversation to settle down. Our temporary registrations had apparently gone unhindered. This is a temporary membership card for our very own Merchants Guild. It is a type of magic tool and will unquestionably be necessary when conducting business. Ask Benno for the details. Your cards are the same that merchant apprentices get, so you can now reach the upper floors on your own. The thin Benno membership card reflected a rainbow of colors when held under the light. It was ridiculously different from anything I had used to dealing with, and from every angle looked like the kind of thing that could only exist in a fantasy world. The more I heard about it, the more awed I became. I could only blink in surprise at the awesome powers of magic tools. As the final step, please press your blood onto the card to confirm your link with it. Afterward, others will be unable to use it. So essentially it is thief-proof. Was blood essential to make magic work? Well, I mean, it has your DNA in it, obviously, so... Yeah. I still remembered having to press my blood to make the contract magic work. Give up mine. What? Come on, hold out your hand. I know you can't do this on your own. Aww. I timidly held out my hand, whereupon Lutz poked it with a needle. With a droplet of blood pushed out, I pressed it against the card. The second I did, the card shone brightly. The shining lasted only a moment before the card was brought back to normal, identical to how it had been beforehand. And by identical, I mean that it was free of both blood and my thumbprint. It was completely clean. Magic tools were convenient, but scary. Perhaps due to having seen me panic over all the blood and the card shining, Lutz seemingly made it a point to finish his registration quickly and expressionlessly. Your registrations are now complete. Thank you very much. Benno started to leave the room as if to say he had no more business there, and we hurriedly followed after him out of the Merchants Guild. A simple registration had completely worn me out. Welcome back. It seems the registration was successful. I cannot talk. When we get back to Benno's store, we found Mark waiting for us. He occasionally wore the dark smile of a calculating merchant, but he was so often our ally that his smile brought light to my heart. Yep, thanks to mine, it was a complete victory. Oh, that's quite rare. Though now that Geezer's got his eyes on us. This might end up problematic. It seems that even Mark found the Guildmaster troublesome to deal with. I could empathize with him from the bottom of my heart. Please follow me. I have prepared for the prototype paper to be purchased. Alright, let's get this over with. Mark opened the door to Benno's room and gestured us inside. The fact that we were getting paid made me pump my fist. Okay, but first I have a request. Can you teach me about money? Say what? Benno narrowed his eyes as if not understanding my intent. Mark looked similarly confused. I haven't actually touched money before now. I know numbers, but I don't know the connections they have with money. For example, I have no idea how to express 5,640 lions in copper coins. What? Both Benno and Mark let out genuine yells of surprise. You've never touched money? I mean, you're not a merchant's daughter, and you're still young, so I suppose that's not surprising. Wait, no, it's definitely surprising. Right. Mine's parents don't send her on errands. She'll collapse on the way there, said Lutz, making everyone sigh in understanding. I've never actually seen a merchant trading at the gate, and when ordering the tools with Mark, I just touched the orders themselves, not the money. I've seen my mom use small coins at the market, but I don't really know what value they have. I said, upon which Mark walked next to Benno, put a bag on the desk, and spread out coins onto it. Very well, I will begin by teaching you the types of money. There were 3 types of brown copper coins, then 2 types of silver and gold coins. Lutz gulped, and I could tell he was staring at the gold coins on the desk. A small copper coin is worth 10 lions. The medium-sized copper coins with a hole in the middle is 100 lions, and the large copper coins 1,000. The small silver coins is 10,000 lions, and this continues onward with large silver coins, small gold coins, and large gold coins. The monetary system was very easy to learn thanks to how it worked in multiples of 10. As I nodded to myself, I heard Lutz groaning quietly beside me. It seemed that the scale had gotten so large he no longer could grasp what was going on. He had a long winter of studying ahead of him, but since he would learn to calculate money while working as an apprentice anyway, I was sure he would be fine. I hope so. Benno grabbed the 6 pieces of prototype paper and lined them up on his desk. A piece of parchment is worth a small gold. Parchment the size I use for contracts is worth a large silver. Paper this big will be worth about 2 small silvers. A piece of paper the size of a postcard is worth 2 small silvers? Wait, how much was... Let me look at that real quick. A small silver is 10,000 lions. So 1 piece of that paper is worth 20,000 lions. I had known the paper was expensive, but I didn't... 20,000, yes, 20,000. Didn't really get it until I saw the money in front of me. Speaking of which, Dad once said that a piece of paper the size of a contract was worth a month of his salary. The size of a contract is worth a large silver. How much was a silver? So that would be, what, 100,000 for 1 large silver? So, a piece of paper the size of a contract is worth 100,000 lions, which means that his monthly salary is 100,000 lions. Wow. I'm guessing that's not much. For now, we have to rely on the price of parchment to determine the price. Vorwin paper is worth 2 small silver, and this trauma paper is high quality enough to be worth 4 small silvers. As a handling fee, we will subtract 30% of that, and to be clear, the money we invested in you until these prototypes were made is separate from the cost of the new Tsuketa you want. We'll garnish your pay for the Rohasa Tsuketa, about 50% considering its price. Now that our prototypes were ready, we would have to keep track of the price of the materials and tools we were ordering. I nodded, and Benno grinned. So we agreed that your pay will be 20% here. We'll have to go through this again once the paper enters the market and the price of wood changes to match, but for now, this is it. That's fine. I nodded again and looked at Lutz, who nodded as well with an expression that made it clear he had no idea what was going on. Benno set a calculator on his desk with a thump and pushed it to Lutz. Lutz, do you know how much the 3 pieces of Bookworm paper and 3 pieces of trauma paper will add up to? Lutz fiddled with the calculator, working in the 3 pieces of Bookworm paper, but then just stopped and shook his head disappointed. He could do calculations that involved a single digit. When the numbers got too big and the types of paper too many, he was at a loss. And you mind? 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 4 is 12, so it should be 18 small silvers, with 50% of that going to the cicada. So about 9 coins going to the cicada, and 30 to the handling fee. We get 20%. That ends up with a total of 3 small silvers and 6 large coppers, which means we each get 1 small silver and 8 large coppers. Benno stared at me blinking, and Mark gave a wry smile. Correct. It's very impressive that you could calculate that instantly on your own. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Personally, I didn't know how to use a calculator and would have to learn that over the winter with Lutz. I wanted to fit into my environment as much as possible. On top of that, there's the slate and slate pen for Lutz. We'll take that out of his pay. 2 large coppers in total. Lutz handed back 2 large coppers and received a slate and slate pen in return. I can give you the money here, or I can deposit it into your guild card if you don't want to have a place for it. Which do you want? It seemed that the guild functioned partially as a bank. Walking around with a lot of money was a scary idea, and I wanted to save up my earnings to buy a book one day. I'll store the small silver on my card, but please give me the large coppers. I want to give them to my mother. It had been a dream of mine here on Earth to donate some of my first earnings to my family in an act of filial piety. I was fine with having that dream granted here. Got it. What about you, Lutz? I'll do the same as mine. All right. Dang it. I took the 8 coppers from Benno and pressed my card against his. I heard a sound like a string being plucked, but the card didn't look any different. You can now get your money from the guild's 3rd floor. I'll need to take you there and show you how it's done soon. Benno grinned at the sight of me turning my card around, and Mark agreed. After Lutz went through the same process, he was given 6 large coppers. The cold weight in my hands excited me so much it was hard to contain. This is the first time I've ever held money before. We've earned this money, huh? Thinking back to the numerous failures which had paved our road to paper made the money in my hands feel all the more meaningful. Hey, Lutz, when spring comes, let's make lots of paper and make a lot of money. Yeah! I looked at Benno full of satisfaction, my heart swooning for my first time touching money. Now that the paper's finished, we're done with the guild, right? I said, which made Benno scrunch his face up and flick my forehead. Don't be stupid, your fight starts tomorrow. You have to go to that old geezer's house and duke it out with his granddaughter, without any adult support, remember? Is now the time to relax like an idiot? What? But we're both kids, and both girls, too. She's the daughter of the guildmaster. Do you really think that he hasn't taught her how to weasel her way into getting whatever she wanted product-wise? Hello? I didn't think that our meeting would turn into a fight or anything. After all, I was just going to ask what kind of hairpin she wanted. It wasn't a meeting, and the guildmaster wouldn't be there, so why would we end up fighting? Yeah, this is the granddaughter that the old geezer dotes on, and I hear she resembles him more than anyone else in their family. She resembles her grandfather? No, not physically. I tried imagining a little girl with a grandfather to give up space, but it just didn't work. Just be glad you've got Lutz with you. Don't let her suck you up. Lutz, don't feel compelled to join the conversation, but if you see mine getting thrown off like she was today, get in there and stop whatever's happening no matter what. Who knows what traps the geezer has lying for us here. Got it? Got it. Lutz nodded hard with a serious expression on his face, but I didn't get why they were both being so dramatic. I mean, we were dealing with a girl who hadn't even been baptized. It doesn't matter, she hasn't been baptized yet. Her grandfather has probably taught her everything he knows when it comes to dealing with merchants and stuff. Do you really think that this is going to be easy? She doesn't realize this. As I tilted my head in confusion, the coins in my hand noisily clicked together. Speaking of which, how much are we charging for Frida's hairpin? I didn't understand the hand sign the guildmasters gave me. The sign he gave meant 3 small silvers. When I said, make it worth our while, that went up to 4 small silvers, said Benno, stunning me. Even considering the price of thread, that was ridiculous for a single hairpin. Wait, what? That's scamming him. Do a good job here. It'll be good advertising for your winter handiwork and impact the price we can sell them at. Can we lower the price? My desperate request was shot down with a single glare. You think I would do that for that geezer? No, not at all. I slumped over after answering. Having to make a hairpin worth 4 small silver coins was a lot of pressure. The price of materials, my introduction, and the handling all add up to about 50 or 60%. Cheer up, it's fine. The price comes from the fact that by not selling the hairpin he had been looking so hard for, you gave him the impression that it would be even harder to obtain than expected. On top of that, there's the guilt of making you start your winter handiwork early, while winter preparations are still going on. There's good reasons for why the price is so high. It's nothing for you to worry about. There may be good reasons for the price, but it's still ripping him off. Sorry, Guildmaster. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop. I don't want to stop, but I got to. My throat's starting to feel it, and it's getting late. So I'll see you guys next time.